You can be here. I'm Principal Melissa Resch, and I'm deeply honored today to have Dr. Janice Jackson and Mayor Lightfoot here, and it's my honor to introduce the mayor. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everybody. Pull my cards out here. This is an important day for us because it's the first day that high school students have been back in their schools in 13 months or so. And we wanted to come here to welcome people back, but also to kind of take in the experience and the atmosphere of what it feels like to be back after such a long time. And we experienced teenagers in full bloom, but certainly I think there's a buzz and energy in the building. Some of these young people are back for the very first time. Others who are more seasoned folks are coming back and reconnecting with their friends, and then others are remaining remote. But we fought very hard for this moment because we felt like it was very important and a question of basic equity for our students. As you've heard me say many times, there are some students who do and have been doing very well on remote learning, but that is not the case for everyone. And there's a lot that we're going to have to address when it comes to learning loss and to achievement gaps that have widened, unfortunately, but we're up to the task and excited about the opportunity. I also want to give a shout out to a couple people here. Some of you know that a year plus ago, we stood up the first ever Mayor's Youth Commission. And it's been a tremendous opportunity for me. We have a wide range of students, both high school and recent grads, who have been members of the Youth Commission. We're now in our next iteration of them, and 3 of them happen to be here at Walter Payton Prep. So I won't embarrass them too much, but I want to give some thanks to Sarah Colley, to Jonna Richardson, and to Francisco Villaseñor, and just thank you for always giving us a robust conversation, challenging me and challenging us to make sure that we're addressing your needs. Conversations that we have are always ones that I come away from thinking about what more we need to be doing to support our young people. And these folks are really incredible and very accomplished. And as I said, a very diverse group of students from across our geography in the city. And we're lucky that you live here and that you're doing the things that you're doing, not only to contribute to your school and your peers, but also to our city. So I just want to give thanks to them, and then happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
Mayor Lightfoot, I have 2 questions for you. Rodriguez from University of Chicago. First and foremost, how is the process going to work to vaccinate all the students to make sure that they're safe along with the faculty?
Well, as you know, we have vaccinations available for some of the students, high schoolers, that would be eligible. There's a vaccine trials that are underway right now for younger people. So when those vaccines become available, and assuming they're tested and FDA approved, we'll follow the same process that we followed before, which is first convening a group of local experts to kind of walk through the science and the data and have our own assurances that the vaccines are safe. And now we've learned a lot about how to administer vaccines, to address vaccine hesitancy, to make sure that we're leading with equity. So we'll follow the same process. Obviously, there will be some tweaks along the way because we're talking about young people, and we'll obviously have to get their parents involved and get their approval. But we're excited about the prospects of getting our young people vaccinated. Some now, as of today in Illinois, every adult is eligible. And it's my expectation as we start to get more vaccine, more and more people, including younger people, will get the vaccine.
Speaking with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, according to
I'm sorry, speaking with the
Illinois Student Assistance Commission,
yeah.
According to them, there's been a reduction on the number of students who have filed for FAFSA. Do you have any plan to give additional support to those students, not only to fill out the FAFSA, but also in in regards to the scholarship?
All right, I'll defer to Dr. Jackson on that question.
I don't have the exact percentages here with me, but Chicago Public Schools has always been a leader in FAFSA completion, and I don't believe we saw a huge dip this year, but I'll get you those exact numbers. So I think whatever rate the state is posting, CPS is really leading and driving that. We have a really robust process in place, and like I said again, we did not see a dip in our seniors completing the FAFSA this year. We know how important that is for post-secondary opportunities.
Dr. Jackson, while you're out there,
Yeah.
can we ask you about Jazlyn Adams? She was the CPS.
Jazlyn.
I know this is a tough day for CPS.
I mean, I feel like a broken record. We're, standing up here talking about how my heart aches. The Jazlyn situation was particularly heartbreaking for me because, when I heard that she was going to McDonald's with her father, I just thought about what that felt like to me as a kid. That was like always a big deal. You get to go to McDonald's and I get to do it with my dad. So I can only imagine the heartbreak. I'm sick of our kids not feeling safe in this city, even doing something as normal and, just normal and regular. So we have, I've reached out to the principal of the school. The district is, as we always do, providing support. But I think that this is heartbreaking for a lot of people. So we're going to continue to support them, but we got to continue to do more to make our kids feel safe and give them opportunities and give them something to do so that they are in school and that they are in a safe place majority of the time.
A question regarding staffing shortages. Due to accommodations like there were with the grade school, do you see any ways to handle that? And are there staffing shortages that you're experiencing right now?
I was about to correct the question. We actually did a really good job managing the staffing issues with the grade schools. There were a lot of questions about that early on, but as we said, we put a lot of resources in place to put additional staff in schools. Our principals were very creative to make that work. With the vaccinations and some of the policies that we have in place, we have far fewer people out on accommodation. So I know that some schools are still being creative, but we feel extremely confident that we have the staff in our buildings in order to provide instructional programs.
Mayor, if you,
Go ahead.
Okay, go
if
ahead.
you could, touching on the Jazlyn Adams thing, are you satisfied with the job police are doing, in particular the superintendent, with regard to guns, gang violence, and the impact it's having on citizens of Chicago?
Well, you raise a very big question. The short version is yes, I am. But ask me if I'm satisfied with the job that everyone who has a responsibility for guns flowing into our city doing. And the answer is no. I've been a broken record on this way before I became mayor. We have to have common sense background checks. We've got to ban assault weapons, and there's got to be interjurisdictional cooperation so that we don't continue to see this rash of gun trafficking that is plaguing our city streets. Every year, the Chicago Police Department takes off the street more illegal crime guns than New York or LA combined. Why? Because of our proximity to states and cities that have very lax gun control laws. The fact that you can basically just drive over the border to Indiana and get military-grade weapons in any quantity that you want if you have enough cash in your hand is shameful. And it's an indictment of our entire system. We've got to step up, and it can only be done by the federal government. There are some things that the federal government should stay out of. Some of the things that we do at the local level, we know our business better. But when we've got a patchwork, and in some instances, holes in the system that it should be designed to protect us all from people who never, ever should possess guns. You talk about the person who shot people at the FedEx, right? This is a guy who his mother said shouldn't have a gun because he had mental health problems, and yet they took one gun and he went out and bought two more. Folks, we are living in madness if we don't step up and deal with this problem. So yes, I'm very satisfied with what our police superintendent and the police department are doing in an impossible environment where we've got to have help. And it starts with background checks, not allowing people who can't fly on planes to actually get guns, and banning assault weapons, for starters.
Does the Biden proposal go far enough?
I think what I've seen in the Biden proposal, I'm comfortable with it. I hope it doesn't get watered down by the Congress, but there's a lot more that the Congress absolutely can and must do. There have been bills pending for years that have never seen the light of day. Tell me why you need an assault weapon as a civilian. It has nothing to do with hunting. It has nothing to do with Second Amendment rights. I mean, it is insane. Tell me why we need barrel loaders, right, that can load 50 to 200 rounds of ammunition at a time and turning a handgun into a machine gun. That is insanity, but yet we see this day after day after day. And since you scratch this itch, I will also say this. We've got to actually hold people accountable who are wreaking havoc in our streets. The fact that we have gone now 13 months and we don't have criminal trials in Cook County. We just charged somebody yesterday, 2 brothers who murdered a person standing over top of them, 11 bullets into them in front of witnesses. And at least one of them was out on another gun charge on electronic monitoring. This isn't working. We need to have trials, and we need to put dangerous people behind bars so that the community is actually safe.
Well, there's a lot of people on electronic monitoring. There was a case 2 days ago where he went down, he hunted down his victim, and he had a monitor on his ankle. Are you ready to have that conversation?
Amy, I've been having that conversation for over a year. I don't control electronic monitoring, because I tell you, if I did, that problem would be solved. We've got to work and put, frankly, pressure on the county system, the chief judge, the presiding judge of the criminal courts, the sheriff, who's been a great partner. But this is madness that we are allowing really violent people back out on the street with ankle bracelets or some other form of pretrial release, and they're terrorizing our communities over and over again.
Madam Mayor, Ruben Roman has apparently just bonded out, perhaps paying about putting down $40,000 in cash. Your reaction is that?
Well, there we go again. It's a sad day. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Tell me again.
My name is Kelly Garcia with the tribe. Have you been in contact with State Attorney Tim Fox regarding the Adam Toledo case?
Regarding?
The Adam Toledo case?
I have not been directly in contact with her, but members of my team have.
Dr. Jackson, I have 2 questions for you.
Wait, one second. I think she had a follow-up. Go ahead.
Can you comment on how and why a prosecutor failed to fully inform himself about the Adam Toledo case before saying Adam had a gun in his possession when he was stopped by police during Ruben Roman's
You have to talk to the state's attorney and the attorney that was responsible. Obviously, I'm the mayor, but I don't control what happens in the state's attorney's office, so that's really a question for them.
But should Kim Fox have had more of a handle on this? I mean, it seems like she's throwing
Craig, you got to ask her about that. I don't run her office, nor do I aspire to, so you got to ask her about that. Let's go here now.
Dr. Jackson, just 2 things. You addressed the turnout today with students, the numbers, and then also the mayor raised an interesting point. 13 months, a lot of kids obviously learning from home. What are you doing to address the mental health aspect of that? Because 300 plus days, 398 days so far at home, and then all of a sudden you're back in this environment. So what are you doing to help those kids?
Yeah, well, we don't have today's attendance, but we'll get that out as soon as it's available. As far as our students, I mean, throughout this process, we've done our best job, our counselors, social workers, teachers, et cetera. But as you point out, it is difficult to do that in a remote environment. Even speaking with students today, they've commented on how it feels different. And there is a process when students return to school. We saw that in the elementary schools. The high schools will be no different. A couple of weeks ago, we released our Healing Center plan, which is really taking the SEL supports that Chicago Public Schools offers, which is, tens of millions of dollars annually on top of the hundreds of millions of dollars we spend on social workers, counselors, et cetera. And we are really trying to support our students early, providing tiered support. There are some students who, they don't need the intervention as much as our kids in a tier 2 and tier 3. Unfortunately, due to school closures because of COVID, we do see far more students who are expressing concerns around their mental health, and we think a good first step is getting them back into school, because oftentimes teachers are the first people to see some of those concerns. They're also very resourceful in helping the kids get to, professionals within the schools or outside of the schools, and so we've made that initial investment. People should expect to hear more about that as we start thinking about our plans for recovery and going into the fall. But we plan to do everything within our power to address some of these concerns. I've said throughout this process, that's my biggest concern. Obviously the academics, but more importantly, how our kids are doing. And what I heard time and time again is that a lot of kids were not doing well when they weren't in school, which is why I'm so happy. I think I'm the happiest I've been in a long time today. So.
But it's still just 14 days. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the calendar,
Yeah.
I have a junior and a sophomore.
But you know what? It's a
and
process.
It's 14 days.
But it's
I'm
a
happy to have
process.
14 days, but what is
It's
the
a
fall gonna
process.
look like?
We're not there yet, but let's take stock because we never celebrate the spaces that we're in. Our kids have been out of school for 13 months. I have been fighting to get our kids back in school since the beginning of the school year. From that time, we knew it was a process. We had to make sure people were comfortable with our plan. We started with a small group of kids. We started with the most vulnerable students. I count this as a success. My goal is to have every kid back in school full time. I want to return to normal, whatever that new normal is, but we're going to celebrate what happened today. We got our kids back in school. Our kids are happy to be back in school, and it is one step along a long process that will end with all of our kids having access to in-person instruction 5 days a week. That is the goal.
All right, we're gonna do two more. We'll go to Simone. He hasn't gone yet.
Go ahead.
Mayor.
Mayor, over the weekend on your Twitter account, you chose to respond to rumors and innuendo. What made you decide to do that, and who do you think was behind those rumors and innuendo?
Well, I think I said what I needed to say yesterday. I'll respond this way. Certainly it's disappointing that something that's so salacious and false and goes against everything that and who I am, that some of you took seriously and were trying to chase down sourcing for. But I'll just share my exchange with my 13-year-old. We were explaining to her and felt a need to explain to her because some of you put her in your mouths. She said, "Why are people so stupid and mean?" I said, "Unfortunately, honey, there are stupid and mean people out there. Luckily not the majority, but some are." Any other questions?
Mayor, can I ask you a
Yes.
question?
Mayor,
The
are
foot
you
chase
running?
policy?
Go ahead. Sorry?
The foot chase policy.
Yeah.
What changes are you looking towards seeing with regard to that? How do they differ from what the consent decree is ordering? And has this taken on a new urgency in light of Adam Toledo?
Well, it certainly has taken on a new urgency. I flagged the foot pursuit policy back in August of 18 when I was a candidate and the initial draft of the consent decree came out. I know from my own experience that foot chases are absolutely one of the most dangerous activities that police officers engage in. Dangerous for them, dangerous for the person they're pursuing, but also dangerous for the community. And my sense of urgency around this is we have to have some common sense about when we say, live to fight another day. I don't want to disarm the police. I don't want people out there who are dangerous to think, well, if I just run, then I'm safe and I can continue to wreak havoc. We can't live in that world either. But we've got to strike the right balance. And I'm concerned, and certainly the really unfortunate tragedy for the Toledo family and Adam Toledo has renewed my sense of urgency around this issue. Things were in the works. The monitor recognized that this was a need, so we're working with her and her team. But I expect to be saying something more specific on this soon. But no one should die as a result of a foot chase. And I'm determined to do what we can to change that around.
So was it a justifiable shooting?
So, go ahead.
Craig Delaware asked if I would ask this question. Just
Yeah.
this week, we're gonna have our first in-person city council in more than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on that, and how many aldermen do you actually expect might show up?
I don't know what the actual final number would be. I think people have a lot of processing for themselves to go through, but as you know, vaccine was offered to all aldermen, all their staff, clerk's office, people on the second floor. It's time to come back in person. The legislature, which had not convened in person for quite a long time, they're figuring it out. It's time for us to come back, and I've heard that from a lot of aldermen for quite some time, and I'm looking forward to be back in council chambers on Wednesday.
All right, thank you, everybody.
On the McDonald's shooting for us?
Not one that I have right now, but obviously our detectives are hard at work. We have some sense of what the circumstances were, but I don't want to get ahead of that investigation.
Mayor,
Mayor, you're gonna run for re-election?
Can you let me get through my second year? I haven't even gotten there yet. Can I have that as a little milestone, and the politics will take care of itself. Thank you, folks.